Great, fantastic. Yeah, it's really interesting to see how these things do kind of affect people in different ways. With people like the very seasonality and very special events kind of stuff happening and all that kind of stuff. Does anyone know why things were called Black Friday? No, the whole kind of thing in America and which came over here for a while. It was actually estimated at the point at which in the year most retail businesses went into the black. Because up until that point, without Christmas and everything else, they were actually running at an operational loss. And it was only at that point where they're starting to make a profit. So it's really kind of interesting to see how the world has changed because now so many businesses sort of did it for a big time and actually discovered that they were losing a lot of money because they were basically people buying stuff cheap that they would have otherwise bought at full price later. And if they hadn't discounted it, then and hung out and been a bit more brave, then people would have come along. But of course, everybody had to compete because otherwise someone else would take the money. So it's a very interesting kind of model and bit kind of almost suicidal kind of world to live in if you're a retailer in the physical world. But what we're going to talk about at the moment, just to start off with, is digital optimization and digital adoption, rather. And this is a thing that I actually designed as part of my MBA. This graph is something I did for my thesis, and it really kind of shows the different ways that digital services and digital things have been adopted over time. And this really applies also to a lot of marketing activities and a lot of stuff which is going on in the world. And usually people kind of do this as a kind of a standard deviation bell curve where it goes up one side and it mirrors and it comes down the other side and it's very symmetric. And my feelings on this was it was actually that was not really very accurate and didn't really reflect the reality of what happens in the world. And this is based on basically work I've been doing for crikey nearly 30 years in terms of the internet and digital adoption of all sorts of things, ranging from physical internet connectivity all the way through to various things that are going on in the world and all the different services and activities which are going on and the marketing techniques and marketing activities and the marketing tools that we're all using as well. All of them have a mirroring kind of approach to this kind of diagram. And really what this basically shows is that this front end of the curve up here is incredibly steep. And this is mirrors the kind of the classic in the dot-com boom days, probably before many of you were born, where every business was looking at this classic exponential curve. And their main aim was to try and survive the low flat bit and to get onto the kink where sales and customers and revenue really kicked in. I mean, that went up. And it was very much seen as the world was seen as survive until then. And for many organizations, particularly in the kind of the very competitive environments, this was likened to because all companies were essentially burning cash at a phenomenal rate. It was frankly scary how quickly we were burning money. It was, we might as well just stuffed it into our petrol tanks and just burnt it that way. It would have been quicker and more efficient. But we were burning money at a furious rate, and we're getting more money from venture capitalists and getting more money from venture capitalists and burning it away and burning it away and burning it away. And almost people were proud of their burn rate. Burn rate was a thing that people actually measured. And back in those days, it was a case of businesses were effectively being chased by a tiger, which was the banks. And they were trying to survive until they could pay back the banks. And it was often said that you didn't have to be faster than the tiger. If you're running away from a tiger, you don't have to be faster than the tiger. You just have to be faster than the guy next to you. Because the guy next to you gets eaten by the tiger, and then you can run away whilst he's being eaten. So this exponential curve element was an incredibly scary place to be. And I was working at a company called WorldCom at the time. And it was a scary, scary place to be back in those days. And so we were very much working in this area here. As an example of what was going on in this area, we sold internet connections to corporates. And the fastest internet connection that we sold back in those days was 2 megabits per second, which is probably about 50 times slower than your broadband connection. And this 2 megabits per second connection cost £40,000 a year. So you'd be spending £40,000, essentially £3,000 a month, for a connection which was 50 times slower than your current connection. Yeah, it was freaky. And we were spending huge amounts of money to get these connections in. We had sales staff with cars, and we had huge offices and everything, and it was just quite phenomenal kind of business. But we were down in this end here because the number of people taking on our services was incredibly small. It was only those innovative companies. So we had organizations like Orange, who now are a major service provider of their own. They were taking connectivity from us. The big banks, the Bank of England and stuff like this, were taking connectivity from us. That was the kind of customer we're at. We were very much at that early innovation stage. And it was incredibly hard work. Because obviously, until all of their mates have got internet connectivity, they can't even send emails to each other, let alone sell stuff on their websites or post stuff up on a website or do all of the other things that we were talking about. This was a time before Google, before YouTube. So we were very much at the very beginnings of the world down here. Then you move into this stage of early adoption. Now, early adoption is when, okay, we've got the first few hundred customers. People are now starting to think a little bit more tactically and thinking, okay, well, yeah, maybe I do need to sort of have a connection to connect up to the Bank of England. Maybe I do actually need email. People are actually starting to ask me for my email address and stuff like this. This was a point in time where famously on the Radio 4 Today program, when they gave out their website address, they would actually go http://www.bbc.co.uk. They would actually read out the HTTPS and all that kind of stuff at the beginning of their URL of their website, because they were so, hey, wow, look at us, we're at the leading edge, we are early adopters of this website stuff, and you can send us emails. My goodness, how radical is that? You could send an email to the Today program. Because we were still talking about very slow uptake. But it was starting to accelerate because more and more people were starting to get together. And this is actually called the network effect. And it's nothing to do with technical networks. It's literally to do with networks of people, groups of people. Essentially, 1 or 2 people in your tribe were starting to get connected. They were talking to you and saying, hey, this is good, you should get on board with this, you should get involved, we can actually work together and stuff like this. And those networks of people were starting to adopt the services. And this works again within pretty much any kind of service that we're talking about. So, social media, Twitter, when Twitter first came along, it had tiny, tiny, tiny numbers of people. Certainly in the UK, it had tiny, tiny numbers of people. But what people would do is they would actually connect up and then they would email their mates and go, hey, have you tried this Twitter thing? You better try this Twitter thing, get on board and we can have a chat on it and stuff like this. And you would end up with these little tribal groupings of people, and this network effect starts to build along here. And then once you've gone past that stage and you're in this early majority, this is the stage where businesses are starting to be profitable, because the cost of sale is now coming down and down and down, because essentially the services and the products are selling themselves. You have to have it. You know, if you're a holdout company and saying, well, I'm not going to, what's wrong with the fax machine? I can use the fax machine and people just fax me orders. I don't need this internet malarkey. They'll just do. And then you're starting to think, actually, yeah, I do need to, because everyone's going, well, how can I email you stuff? And can you email me the quote? I don't want you to fax me the quote. I want you to email me the quote and all these kind of things, and fax me the orders. And in Chelsea's case, you know, sort of, okay, every pub would have had a fax machine and they would have filled in a paper form with the numbers on it and everything else, and they would have faxed it up to head office, and you'd have gone there and you'd have read the drunken handwriting on the order form covered in beer splashes and everything else, thinking, what the hell is that, 7 or 1 or what? You would never have been able to read this damn stuff. And you go, look, just get with the program, get the email, make all the scribbles on your paper in the cell out, and come up, do it onto your desktop machine and place the order that way, and just email it to me and I'll read it properly. It'll come into our system, we can put it into our system, we can get it packed and everything else and get it shipped to you, and it's much easier. So this is where the early majority start to kick in. It becomes actually profitable and valuable for organizations to take the service, and the sales process is a lot easier. When you're getting into this kind of stage here, in this late majority stage, this is when the cost of switch, because there's other people selling it. And here, it's expensive to sell. It's not very profitable. It's starting to get profitable up at this top piece here. In this piece here, the 5 forces, the threats of substitution and alternative competition starts to kick in, because other organizations go, well, I'm starting to fill up. You know, I've sold it to all the people who haven't had it before. I'm now having to sell it to people who've already got it and trying to switch them out and come to me. And this gets kind of, you know, quite tricky for a lot of organizations, because they're now moving out of this specialness into this very much more commodity side of things. There's loads and loads of people providing the services. There's loads and loads of organizations providing the services. There's very little differentiation between products and services. So we're now starting to talk about things like price competition. We're starting to talk about switching and loyalty and the need to cross and upsell to keep people, and churn starts to become an issue going on in this business. So this is where this late majority piece, and it's coming down here because it's less profitable, it's less good to be in this area. And then you get into this area here, which is the laggards and the long tail, and the service because they have to. They don't want it at all, but they are forced to have it. And so examples would be Netflix cancelling now its DVD rental postal service. People who are still wanting to keep the DVD things. Now you can't do that anymore. You have to go Netflix. We just don't do it anymore. You know, you can't have situations. And I've read an article a couple of days ago about there are some banks in Australia who are now refusing to give you cash. They are closing their ATMs because they're saying, no, just get online, do it. And of course, you know, people go, oh, move my business elsewhere. And for most banks, domestic customers like us don't make them any money, or not real money, certainly not on their current accounts. They go, fine, you want to get rid of your current account? great, fantastic. I don't want your current account. I want your mortgage and I want your loans and I want that kind of stuff. But I don't want your current account and me arsing around sending you cards and having call centers to manage it and all that kind of stuff and having branches with all that stuff. I don't want that. So you get this area of laggards who are only taking on the services and taking on the product and moving with the times because they have to. And then you end up in this long tail, and these people who literally will never take it. My parents, my in-laws will never have internet connectivity in their houses. They will never have smartphones. Well, my mother-in-law has a smartphone, but that's a completely different story. She managed to remove text messaging app from her phone. I didn't think it was physically possible to remove the text messaging app from your phone. I thought it was so embedded that you just couldn't erase it. She managed to erase it. How the hell she managed to do that, I don't know. But anyway, so this is the very, very long tail. And they still, my mother-in-law still uses phone banking where she phones up and press 1 for a balance, press 2 for a transfer, press 3 for direct list of direct debits, press 4 for the last 5, all that stuff. She still does that because she doesn't believe in this internet thing. Somewhat ironic considering I've been working in the business for 30 years and she still doesn't believe in it. But you can see how this shape of the curve works. And this is very much like a wave. If you see a wave at the seaside, it's got this steep front. And if you're surfing, then getting out that steep front is the real tricky bit. You can ride the wave here, and that's the cool place to ride the wave. As you start to come down here, it gets less and less worthwhile doing, and eventually you fall off because the wave just doesn't work anymore. So this wave approach works really kind of interestingly. The other thing that it can do is kind of give you some indications on the kind of sales and marketing activities you should be doing in those areas. In this area here, the early adopters and the innovators, you're having to do a lot of what I would call educative marketing. You're having to explain to the users what the hell this is, why this is useful for them. And it's certainly at these are very early stages. You're having to even explain to them what that they have a problem. They don't even realize that they have a problem that your product or service or activity is solving. They simply have no clue that they need what you're doing. So they're not looking, they're not searching. No one is searching for anything to fix their problem because they don't know they have a problem. And so at this very, very early stage, there's a lot of educative marketing going on. And you're really having to spend a lot of time and a lot of effort persuading people that in actual fact, they need to look at your service. As you're heading up into this piece here, you're kind of piggybacking off of the educative marketing that you've done and your competitors have done. Okay, so now, for example, if you're looking at selling broadband connections, okay, if you're a company selling broadband connections, you don't have to tell people what broadband is. You don't have to explain what Wi-Fi is and stuff like this. What you're doing here is you're now starting to say, well, look, you can get full fiber broadband. You can get the ultimate speed. You can get Kevin Bacon talking about, landing planes from computers in your front room and stuff like this. And so you're actually kind of almost selling to the converted here. You're selling to people who say, yeah, actually, I know what I want. You give me the good stuff. You've got good deals. I can see what's going on. Later on, you're getting into this late majority, and this is where things like price competition really kick in because things are starting to become commoditized. Everyone's got the same stuff. There's no real differentiating between brand A and brand B. As I said last week, my smart hubs are all exactly the same. It's just they're a different color. So we're now getting into this stage here. No, go back a bit. Sorry about that. We wanted to get into this stage here where it's just basically at price. And you're saying, okay, right, okay, it's 100 megabits per second. You're offering it for 25, you're offering it for 24, and so on. And you're offering it with Disney Plus for free. You're offering it with Netflix. You know, this is the kind of things that we're dealing with now. This is the kind of decisions we're making as we're getting into this late majority and this laggarding stage here. And this is the long tail piece here, which is where BT are now working into the digital voice. Who's heard of this digital voice thing? No? Chelsea? No? Gabby? No? Digital voice. At the moment, we all have a phone line, and that's still running on copper and stuff like this, alongside our broadband connections and stuff like this. BT hate it, or Openreach hate it, because it costs them money to run this thing. And frankly, no bugger uses it. Very few people use their landline. It's just never used. And they're still having to maintain all this equipment and all this stuff and all of this network and stuff like this, and running all of the routing and everything else. So what they're doing is they're moving to what they call digital voice, which is actually technically voice over IP. They're basically plugging in your phone into your broadband connection, and you're running your voice connections over that, and it's popping out somewhere in Openreach land and so forth. And eventually they were thinking of doing it by the end of this year, and then they pushed it back to the end of next year, and it might go a little bit further away from that. And what they're doing is, so my parents and my in-laws, classic examples of the long tail here, are getting these letters from BT saying your phone line will be going away and you'll be converted to digital voice over broadband, because they had no clue what's going on. There's big issues with a lot of these laggards in their 80s and so forth, don't want the internet and not adopting the internet, and BT are trying to convert them into having phones over broadband. And it's been such a bad thing that they're actually, I think, pushing it back by another 12 months, because this is taking so much time, and they are hitting this long tail. And this comes down to the long tail being incredibly expensive for organizations. It's massively, massively expensive for organizations. Say, for example, you had a chain of 50 pubs, and one of those pubs said, no, I am not giving you digital orders by email or by me logging into your computer system. I still want to fax you orders, and I still want those orders to be sent by paper, by hand, to you. They churn out of a fax machine, and some poor bugger in the head office is going to have to read it, work out what it means, and then type that in. And you could say, no, if you want to buy our products, if you want to take our products, you go digital. Because you could end up with a person having to do that job just for them, and having processes and procedures built in place just for that one. And you would just go, right, forget it. You want our stuff? Yeah, you go digital or you go home. Slightly less of an issue for you, Chelsea, because I mean, I think you have a fair degree of control, and also, pubs are doing that, and everything else from their other stuff is also probably done electronically now, so it's probably a moot point anymore. But you can see that kind of issue.
And one thing is a bit different, but that we've started getting at work is now, instead of getting work phones, we get an eSIM. So like my personal phone now has 2 SIMs.
Yeah.
So which I thought was quite technology forward for me. I thought that was quite crazy, and it's very, I mean, it's good because it saves them obviously having to provide handsets and stuff, but it took me a while to adjust to it. So it's quite interesting.
It is. The difficulty there is, Chelsea, that if you have 2 phones, one work and one business phone, come 6 o'clock at night or whatever, you can actually say, right, fine, business phone, I've just got my own phone. Whereas if you've got 2 SIMs in there, your own SIM and the work SIM, then someone drops you a message or pings you on Slack or whatever, it's in front of you, it's in your face, and it can be much harder to switch off. And yeah, it can be quite a tricky thing. And there's lots of human resource issues, HR issues with with this, because it's kind of like demanding that we're permanently accessible, no matter what. You're going abroad, you're on the beach, you're looking for a restaurant, and then suddenly you get a ping of an email from your boss going, "Where's this?" It can be an issue. So I'll be wary of that, or have the ability to turn it off. If you can turn off the eSIM, then do. And you can probably do that and just sort of turn off data for the eSIM and stuff like that when you're not working. And things like Microsoft Windows had this operating system called XP, which was worse than even most of the other Microsoft Windows stuff. But it was used a lot in what's called embedded devices. So the computer inside the ATM would actually be using XP because it was built when XP was the greatest thing in the world. And the difficulty is that Microsoft obviously want to stop supporting it. They want to stop bug fixing it. They want to stop giving it security updates. But all the banks said, no, I've got 25,000 ATMs running Windows XP. You are going to continue, because I'm not going around and upgrading and updating all of my ATMs just because you stopped supporting a piece of software. And so it cost Microsoft a lot of money to continue supporting XP for quite a lot more years. And I worked for a bank a long time ago, and this bank had it was NatWest. I'm not going to sugar it anyway. It was NatWest, and they had a print center, and this print center was it was the size of 2 football pitches, basically. Huge building full of massive, enormous printers, and these printers would be running like 24/7, printing out bank statements and then stuffing them in envelopes and posting them to people. When was the last time you guys had a paper bank statement?
5 years ago, maybe.
Yeah,
I've never had one.
I still
Never
get
had.
them because I hate getting them on my phone and stuff. So I'm the minority. That
You're in this laggard section here. They will soon start charging you for them because it costs them an absolute fortune to do this. And so because they have to continue to support this, because if people want a bank statement, they have to have a bank statement. And so I thought, Catherine is there getting her bank statement every month, and it's lovely. Do you ever check it, or do you?
I actually do. I blame my mum, my grandma. They're very they've always been very like finance driven. So they're always like, make sure you check your bank statement. You never know. So then I do look at it and I think, oh God, did I really spend that much at ASOS, or was that someone else? But I don't look too closely. But yeah, I do still check them.
My goodness, wow, I am impressed. I can't remember the last time I actually looked and checked the bank statement, but yeah. But yeah, it is difficult. And of course, if you move to one of the new banks, then they say, yeah, you don't get paper statements, and stuff like this. We don't have branches. Fine, we're part of the ATM system, and so you can do it through that way. We don't have branches. We don't have people sitting around in polyester suits, ready to take in bags of coins from you, because who the hell uses that anymore? And of course, those banks then have a cash advantage because they don't have that overhead. They don't have the costs. Monzo and Revolut didn't have to build a printing center to print the bank statements because they just don't do it. The really interesting thing there is a lot of organizations still haven't yet twigged that people don't get bank statements, don't get utility bills, and don't actually have that stuff turning up at their desk. They sort of, I was trying to do something a while back, and it said, oh, you needed a utility bill dated within the last 3 months. And I went, I don't have a utility bill dated in the last 3 months. I don't have a phone bill. I don't have an electricity bill. I don't have a gas bill. I don't have a bank statement dated in the last month. I've got a council tax bill because the council tax still sent me the bill. But that was 9 months ago that they sent me that. So I don't have any of those things. How do I prove I'm getting statements at my house, and it's very, very interesting that lots of businesses haven't yet caught on to the fact. And so you say, oh, it's all right, I'll just print out the statement from my system. Oh, no, that's not, you can't do that. Who's to say you haven't edited it? Fair enough, you can actually edit them. So all sorts of big issues there. One of the really interesting things is this hype about adoption. Game of Thrones. Who watched Game of Thrones? No, Chelsea. Yes, Catherine. No, Gabby. Oh, okay. So, so was that Gabby?
No, I couldn't get into it.
Yeah,
You couldn't get into
I watched the first series and I was like, no. Same with that other one, Breaking Bad. Didn't get into that.
I didn't get into Breaking Bad. No, I didn't get into that. But I did get into Game of Thrones because it was silly. It was very Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, stuff like that. But yeah, there's lots of things like that I don't get into. But if you would, and in actual fact, the numbers of watching it was like, okay, maybe a couple of million people watched it, which for a Sky Atlantic thing was incredible good numbers. You know, Sky Atlantic were rubbing their hands because it's a couple of million people. That did mean that 58 million people in the UK weren't watching it. Yet, if you were listening to any of the news items, any of the media reviews, any of the TV reviews, people, you know, on news, on breakfast shows and news items, were all talking about, you know, the finale of the season and the series finales and what was happening on it and everything else, as if the entire world was watching it. Whereas in actual fact, it was 4% of the UK was watching it. And this can be a big issue in the marketing sense, because even at its peak, and it has gone way past its peak, only about, I think it was something like 20% of the UK were active Twitter users. But if you were at that point looking at all of the organizations going, follow us on Twitter, we'll find our latest information on Twitter, connect to us on Twitter, it was almost as if they expected 100% of their users to be connecting to them. And it's the same with things like Instagram and Snapchat and all of these other things. Snapchat, no one uses Snapchat anymore. I don't believe anyone still uses Snapchat. MySpace was the one which was hilarious. But all of these things, everyone's going, oh yeah, this is the greatest thing, this is the latest thing, this is where we need to be in order to connect to our customers, this is where all of our users are going to be. And in actual fact, it was incredibly small numbers of those people, but the hype suggested that everybody was on there. You know, in actual fact, a lot of these things were up in this area here, rather than up in this area here, where the majority are starting to kick in. And this is a big problem with a lot of the social media stuff, because you know, it is based all around hype and all around you know, lots and lots and lots of projections of users. Who here has heard of Truth Social? Nope. That is interesting, actually. Interesting. Truth Social is Donald Trump's social media platform. Yeah, I saw eye rolls there. When he got banned from Twitter, he created what's called Truth Social. And at a technical level, all he did was he got a bunch of techies. There's only about 30 people in the entire company. And he got a bunch of techies to build what's called a Mastodon server, which is a piece of open source software, which kind of does a little bit like Twitter, only it's open source and you can basically download it and just install it on any machine under your desk and run it, and you can run your own kind of chat rooms and stuff like this. And it actually has virtually no users to all intents and purposes. They've got about 250,000 users on it. its revenues are, it loses around about 300 million in the last quarter on, and it sold advertising revenue worth $900,000. So its income was $900,000. Its expenses were 300 million and 900,000, and it lost 300 million. Pretty much the only people on it are Donald Trump and Donald Trump supporters, and frankly, rabid redneck Nazis are not really a kind of key marketing demographic that many people want to get involved in. But its share price values it higher than Tesla in terms of earnings to price ratio. Its price is just staggering. It's just absolutely enormous. It's worth $6 billion on losing $900,000 a quarter. No, sorry, losing 300 million a quarter. And it's worth, because of the hype, because people say, oh, it's where everyone goes. And basically everybody who's a commentator on Donald Trump is on Truth Social in order to find out what Donald Trump is saying that day. And I use the word saying in the loosest possible definition of the word saying. And it's very interesting that none of you had actually ever been on Truth Social, because you had no idea what Truth Social was, because you know, in certain circles its hype is huge, but in many places it's not. How does this apply to us? This applies to us in terms of when we're choosing channels and when we're looking at channels, and when we're looking at platforms. It's very easy for our bosses to say, I was listening to TV yesterday and someone talked to me about whatever it is. Why aren't we on that? Why aren't we doing this? What's going on in this area? Why have you ignored whatever? We need to understand two things. We need to understand where our products are on this kind of adoption curve, and particularly when it comes to channels, marketing channels, where they are in this adoption curve. So there's two things we need to use this adoption curve for. So, okay, is this channel actually in this area here where I can get loads and loads of people, I can get access to loads and loads of people really cheaply, and it's kind of, yeah, it's actually a perfectly valid, cost-effective model? Or is it down here where, you know, frankly, it's an absolute nightmare? Or is it at the end here? And the end here is probably full page ads in newspapers. You know, who here takes a daily newspaper? Anyone have a daily newspaper? Nope. When was the last time any of you read a daily newspaper? Some of you are looking at me saying never. Again, interestingly, my parents get the Daily Mail and the Telegraph every day. And in the Daily Mail and the Telegraph, they have full page ads. Organizations will come up with full page ads. I can't understand why anyone would take a full page ad in a newspaper, because frankly, you open the newspaper, you see a full page ad there, you're going, there's nothing there to read, and you're going to look at that page, and then you're going to flick over. You don't see that page for more than a millisecond, basically. You think, okay, I'm here. Right, I'm reading this one. And so, and adverts in the back of papers and stuff like this. It's just, you know, who reads any of this stuff? But so that's probably right at this very, very end here. This is as a marketing channel, it's right down at the bottom here. So it's really interesting to be able to use this model for two things. One, to work out what marketing techniques we should be using. And one of the things I kind of put some names on this. In here, in this area, in the innovator section, it's kind of the did you know kind of phraseology for your market adoption. Did you know that you're having problems? Did you know the educative stuff? In here, we're talking about the kind of the yes, because. Yes, we can solve that problem because we've got this great thing. Yes, we can solve your issues. We can do this for you. Yes, because. Up in this section here, we're talking at the yes and section. Yes, it will do this, and it will save you money on this. Yes, it will cover this, and it will allow you to do this. So it's the yes ands in this piece here. And in this piece here, we're talking at the no, but. No, you can't do that, but you can do this. No, you cannot run 25 gaming PCs on your broadband connection, but you can do these things instead. But you can do this stuff. In this section here, it's the no because. It's basically slapping people down. No, we're not doing that because it's not cost effective. No, we're not doing that because we've got something else better to do that. No, you cannot have that because you cannot have Tesco own brand products through Ocado because we're Ocado. So there's lots of different things you can do here. So we're talking about education, yes, supporting, filtering, and then rejecting customers. We're actually saying, no, we don't want you as a customer. No, you cannot move to Metro Bank because we don't want you. We don't want to give out payment statements. We don't want to handle cash, whatever. No, you cannot have a Revolut bank account because we don't have branches. We don't do any of that stuff. We really don't even want to send you a plastic debit card. We want to use your phone as a debit card. So you can see how those different models and those different conversations apply in different parts of this adoption curve. One of the really interesting things about a lot of digital campaigning versus traditional marketing activities is the things called like repetition and so forth. If you were running a TV advertising campaign, Bird's Eye Peas, anyone remember Bird's Eye Peas advertising? Yeah? No, okay. Bird's Eye used to have a TV campaign which basically said the peas were picked and frozen within 4 hours, I think, something like this. And they would actually have TV adverts of pea picking machines and stuff like this. And they also had because Bird's Eye does lots of other stuff. Anyone ever heard the song "We Hope It's Chips"? We hope it's chips, it's chips. We hope it's chips. No, no. It was a whole TV campaign for Bird's Eye beef burgers, and it would be a van load of white van men and plumbers and stuff like that going home and singing. And they hoped they were going to get burgers and chips for tea and stuff like this. But these TV campaigns had to run for a long, long, long period of time to get into people's heads. It would take months to actually get the message across because these adverts were in amongst other adverts. They were 30 seconds long. You didn't have time to get much attention. You had to let them kind of soak in. And so there was actually a huge lag between starting marketing activities and getting any kind of response to these. But once they got going, they kept going because there was a kind of inbuilt memory of these, genetic memory of these campaigns over a period of time. There are some really fascinating ones, which will really show my age, and I'll email you all a list of all the really fancy ones. But certainly TV and radio, that's why on the radio show you get the same advert repeated, and then 10 minutes later, the same advert, and then 10 minutes later, the same advert. It's because you're not really paying attention to the adverts. And so what you need to do is they need to pump it into you as many times as possible so you absorb it subconsciously. We've all listened to radio stations where they basically have the same advert like after every 4 songs. That's why they do it that way. It's because they have to get it into you. So the lag is long, but this can tail off quite slowly once you've got this in there. With digital campaigns, it's very, very different. You can actually get this peak of response much, much quicker. I said before, we sent out promotional emails. We would start to get orders within an hour. You're putting adverts into Instagram. You will get people clicking on those adverts almost immediately, if it's a good advert, they will start to respond to that immediately. And then indeed with something like Instagram or with any other social media advertising, you have to get the instant response because it's flung past their off their screen within minutes, if not seconds. So you have to get that instantaneous call to action. You need to get them to shop now, to click here, to find out more instantly. So you get a very short lag, and you have to have a short lag, and the peaks can be very, very high, but the troughs can be equally steep. As soon as you stop that promotion, there's no memory of that activity, or very, very, very little memory of that activity. You might have one or two people who've kind of gone onto the website and bookmarked it for later, but frankly, the response rate on those is going to be incredibly low. So if you're doing a Father's Day special Sunday lunch, you do social media advertising for that, you're going to hope that the mums are going to go, yeah, we'll book that and we'll book it now. We'll find a place. We'll look at the menu. Yeah, we'll use Open Table. We'll book it. There will be some people go, yeah, I'll put that in and I'll bookmark that and I'll look at it later. How many of them will look at it later? My wife has got quite a few tabs open on her phone. Take a guess how many tabs she's got open on her web browser on her phone.
Bet it's not more than my 86-year-old grandma, is all I'm going to say.
Oh, I think it might be 250.
Wow.
What's the
Jeez.
chance that if one of those was the details of a pub or of any other service, that she's going to actually ever find that tab ever again and go back to that tab and actually book a table? Essentially zero. So we have this peakiness. We need to get the people to come to us immediately, because as soon as we stop that marketing, the responses will plummet. Whereas in the olden days, TV advertising could have kept going for quite a long time after the actual adverts were around. Patsy Kensit. Who knows Patsy Kensit? Heard of Patsy Kensit? No? No? Oh my goodness, this is really terrible of me. Patsy Kensit actually started advertising Fairy Liquid. She was a little child advertising Fairy Liquid a long, long time. Hands that are dishes can be soft as your face with mild green Fairy Liquid. I'm not going to sing it because there's laws against me singing, but these are the kind of, and they still go on now. I mean, that was probably 30 years ago. I can still literally remember the lyrics to that advert, even now. So yeah, this is how long things last. What's out? There's a Humphrey about. Ask your parents if they remember what's out. Watch out, there's a Humphrey about. Please do that, and I would love to find out the responses from any of your parents on that one. Scary. The other thing is it's easier to measure the responses because we've got this short amount of lag, and we've got this digital immediacy, the calls to action. You can actually say, we put that advert out, we got people clicking on it, we gave them a 20% discount, we got this many people using that discount code, we did this, we got that thing out. We can actually link the advertising to action incredibly tightly. Whereas if you're doing TV adverts or radio adverts, then you've no idea whether it was advert A or advert B which worked. You've no idea whether it was the ones in Coronation Street or Emmerdale which worked. You've got no ideas whether it was the ones on Channel 4 or on the ones on ITV that worked. You might be able to see some kind of uplift, but that uplift will be so far beyond when it was on that you're not going to be able to track it very easily. So there's a lot of issues with that stuff. So it's easier to measure our digital stuff, but of course we can't hide this classic hiding of brand awareness. We can't do that because, frankly, people go, well, you had a call to action of this, or you had a discount offer of this. You had a, free, free drinks with a 3-course meal. Who used the free drink with a free 3-course meal offer? No one. In which case it was a crap offer and a crap campaign, wasn't it? Because no one used it. Or, hey, we got 2,000 people using it. They go, great, fantastic. So your cost of this advertising generated 3,000 extra meals. Brilliant. We can actually then return on marketing investment. We can measure it and track it. Which of course is great if it works. If it doesn't work, then it's less great. Also, this peakiness means that we can't just do something and then rest on our laurels. We actually have to have another campaign and another campaign and another campaign. We have to actually do a lot of repetitions. We have to have a higher cadence of campaigns to keep that response up. We can't just do one and then go, yeah, fantastic, great, I'm off. Right, I've come up with a brilliant idea. Let's get the drinks in and we'll come back next week and maybe think of another one. We have to keep on going. We have to keep it doing. It's tiring work. It is relentless. It is truly relentless. And I don't think our bosses really know quite how relentless it can be to get this stuff going. Chelsea's nodding there. I think she's sort of, oh yeah, absolutely. You have to come up with new ideas. You have to come up with new plans. You have to then enact them. Whilst you're enacting plan B, you're measuring plan A and thinking about plan C. So, you're doing this multitasking stuff, and it can be really, really, really tough. Feel for you, Kristen. Yeah, absolutely. And this is the tracking piece. We need to do something, create a message, measure the reaction to that message, reflect on what has happened, what's good, what's bad. Did it work? Did it not work? Did we get some, not as much as we were expecting? How can we improve? How can we, turn the dials, turn the knobs on this to actually improve it? And this means we go round and round and round. So we do a message, we measure the reaction, we modify it, try it again, react, all the way to all this time. We have to do these things time and time and time again. And this comes to a plan which was actually developed by Japanese car manufacturers after the World War II, called Kaizen. Kaizen is the process of continual improvement. So you will actually continually check and improve. And in car manufacturing in Japan, it was not only allowed, but it was expected that if workers on the production line found a problem, they were permitted to stop the production line and work to fix the problem. Whereas in America, nothing could stop the production line. The production line had to keep going. So things weren't being delivered on time. Things weren't fitting properly. Doesn't matter, just keep it going, keep it going. We'll sort it out later. We'll fix it later. We'll fix it later. And of course, no one ever fixed it later because they were too busy fixing the problems in the production line. And so Kaizen is a process of continual improvement. And it's something that we have to do with all of our digital activity, all of our digital planning, all of our digital work, because we have the measurements, because we're running multiple campaigns simultaneously. And it's very interesting that the CIM, when you're looking at the module, they will talk about digital monitoring, and they will look at monitoring and control of your marketing campaign. They're not talking about measurement of your campaign. They're talking about monitoring and control. So this is actually controlling it on the fly whilst it is happening. We're not now in the situation where essentially we wait for a campaign to finish after 3 months and then we dissect it, do a post-mortem and rummage around through the entrails and work out what went wrong or what went right. We actually have to fix it whilst it's running, because this response rate means everything is really short. If we wait until it's finished, then we've lost the opportunity to fix the next one and the next one and the next one. So we need to keep this going, and we need to keep monitoring stuff. And yeah, it is exhausting. It is terrifyingly hard work to do this. And yeah, I think a lot of the time, a lot of old school marketing managers or old school managing directors and so forth who've, been around, and they've served their time and all those kind of wonderful hackneyed phrases, don't really realize quite what this increased cadence of marketing is causing us issues with. It really, really does cause a lot of issues, and we need to maintain that. And we need to basically market ourselves to our bosses to tell them this is what's happening. This one, when you look at a lot of the channels, a lot of the activities we're doing, almost all of them are actually working to feed into some kind of destination. And for most organizations, for most businesses doing digital marketing, this is online. And even for those businesses which are very, very physical businesses, we're trying to get people to do an action. So the middle here could actually be action, not just web. It could be anything in that respect. And defining what that action is crucial. I run the partner program management program for my company called Géant. And what this is essentially a whole bunch of organizations who sponsor our major conference, which is happening next week. And what we do as part of their package of things that they get from us is they get the ability to put advertorial articles into our event magazine. Really nice glossy magazine, perfect bound, about 80 pages, really, really cool thing. And they get to do a double page spread as part one. If they're a sponsor, they get a double page spread. Yay, fantastic, good stuff, well done. And these are large companies. These are people like Google and Amazon and Nokia and stuff like this. Big companies, companies that you've heard of, let's be honest. Okay. The number of times they send me an article and I send it back to them saying, that's really nice, but you haven't put a call to action at the end of that article. And that call to action can be visited at our booth at TNC, or to find out more, download our white paper from www.nokia.com, whatever it happens to be. Calls to action are kind of obvious marketing 101s. For every kind of activity that we have, there should be a call to action. To find out more, go here. To get more information, Google our name. To take advantage of this wonderful offer, use the code, whatever it is. All of those things, calls to action. And the key thing about all of these things, it's social media, email, offline advertising, search engine marketing, search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, all of these things. The crucial thing is to make sure that there's a call to action within them, which is part of the process. And many of the times that will be sending people to the website. If you are sending them to the website or sending them to a store or sending them wherever or sending them a voucher or whatever it happens to be, getting them to download a sample, giving them a 7-day free trial or whatever it happens to be, all of those things, you need that call to action within all of your marketing to work, because otherwise, what's the point in doing this? No one's going to come to your homepage and go, right, okay, I've done my search engine, I've done my search on Google, and they've sent me to their homepage. I've got to do a search again. Nightmare, you wouldn't do that for any of your marketing campaigns at all. You know, if you're putting a marketing campaign somewhere, you wouldn't send them to the homepage and then expect them to find it inside your business. You would send them directly to the action page that you want. And that is absolutely crucial because it means that there's lower friction for them. Frictionless transactions are important. Less annoyance for them, because the last thing you want to do is annoy a customer. It's kind of a bad idea to not annoy customers. It's really good marketing practice. And it also gives you this trackability to say, I did this thing, I therefore got blah, 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 blah. I can track very closely to say campaign A targeting product B resulted in results C. Brilliant. Manage that, track that. So campaign to say, for a 7-day free trial of our service, click here, x.com/7 days or whatever you want to do. So you know where things are going, know what's happening. 2-for-1 deals, y.com/2-for-1. That kind of thing. So we know where they're going and we know what they're doing and how to bring all these things together and link these things together, and to actually, you know, be able to help the customer and also to track what we are doing and the success or otherwise of what we're doing. Does anyone do this kind of free trials or 2-for-1 deals or stuff like that? Is that some part of your, Catherine? Do you do that as
so pretty much we do. We have a lot of kind of space at trade shows and exhibitions and conferences. So we will kind of do leaflet drops or kind of inserts and delegate packs, and it will be depending on the audience, it'll either be like a 20% discount code that delegates can use, or if it's for a more kind of corporate audience, it is the kind of 7-day or 30-day free trial to the corporate database, which is that's the product that is most applicable to them. So yeah, calls to actions are absolutely integral to our marketing.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Glad to hear it, because, like I say, I mean, I don't understand where these people are coming from inside Google and Amazon and Nokia and places like that. I had one, and I said, "Oh, could you put a call to action?" But, oh, that's a great idea. For pity's sake, or words to that
I think
effect.
a lot of it is like because they are so well known, they expect people just be able to like go, oh, well, it's Google, so I know where to go. But like we get it in our space as well. There's certain publishers that are multi-million pound kind of businesses that just don't do the simple things and the obvious things, because I think they just expect the audience to know that if they want to read this book or go to this event, they know that they've just got to go to this page. But sometimes it's not as simple as that.
Particularly if you're doing these offers and stuff like that, and people possibly will know their homepage, but there are so many bits of Nokia and there's so many bits of AWS and so forth that, you know, that you can't assume they're going to rummage around and find it. So it can be really, really important. And this is where things like QR codes and stuff like this can also work as well, because you can embed a huge amount of data and you can actually target them down to a very, very tight page and track it very closely as well. You know, so on leaflets and things like that, then QR codes. So it's kind of offline to online kind of activity to find out more to down. Yeah.
Yeah, with our like any sort of campaigns that we run, whether they're like bounce backs or something like that, then they're normally QR code to sign up, and then the sign up mechanism sends them vouchers and stuff like that. So that's how we kind of tend to do the bigger campaigns. So we can track how many signed up, how many vouchers were sent, how many were opened, and then how many were used, and then we can remarket those who didn't use them, and then market the people that did use them differently. So that's how we kind of go full circle.
Absolutely. So it's really, really important, and because this is where the attribution comes in, you know, with these QR codes. I love it when I kind of say something and then somebody comes back and then suddenly I'll flick to the next page and it kind of makes sense. It's relevant. It's kind of vicarious thrill from this. And so this attribution, this linking of marketing to action, marketing to effect, cause to effect, is really, really important. In the business to business world, this can actually be really quite tricky, because in the business to business world in particular, there's usually multiple steps, multiple decisions, multiple gatekeepers and players within the process. Most decisions are kind of considered decisions. There's not kind of the impulse going on here. It's not, yeah, I'm going to do that. Fantastic. It's always a, well, maybe I need to investigate this. I need to do a bit of study, a bit of research. Maybe it's some quotes from my existing supplier and from new suppliers. All these kind of things happen, which makes attribution of cause and effect very, very difficult. And particularly within, marketing campaigns and marketing measurement, and certainly for the assignments and stuff like this, it can be very, very difficult to manage that process, to understand how that's going to fit together. Which gives us this one. And this is something that I recommend to most people in terms of their assignments when it comes to this control element. Now, most people's assignments will have the concept of a customer journey built into them. So define your customer journey. And most of the people will using an ADA or a RACE model. Both of them are effectively good. RACE, I think, is more business to business. ADA is more business to consumer, but essentially they work very, very similarly. And one of the real interesting points about this is that within the customer journey, we explain people aren't aware of us, and they become aware of us through pay-per-click, through search engine optimization, through social media, through YouTube, through email, or whatever it happens to be. And they become aware, so they transition from unaware to aware. And then we give them a bit of information and so forth, and they become interested. And so they sign up for a newsletter, they sign up for a discount code, they sign up for a free trial. They become interested. And then once we've piqued their interest, they actually say, yeah, actually, I'm going to order. I'm going to do a thing. I'm going to reserve a tape. I'm going to, whatever it happens to be. And I always say that desire and action, particularly online, are either well and truly combined, because essentially it's the same thing. It's the difference is one click often. Or in business to business, then the desire bit is call me, get someone to call me. I want to arrange a meeting or whatever. And that's essentially where the digital marketing ends, because that's when an account manager turns up and starts to do their glad handing and taking out for meals and all that kind of stuff. So quite often within the customer journey, the desire and action can either be combined or completely and utterly isolated and segregated, this being digital and this being person to person, face to face, organization to organization, or whatever it happens to be. But these transition points are really, really interesting, because these are fantastic places to stick the thermometer in your marketing to measure how well it's doing. So you could stick a thermometer in here and say, okay, our previous traffic onto our website was X. We did some work in pay-per-click, and our traffic has gone up to X plus 50%. Okay, that gives you a good measurement. Okay, our web traffic's gone up by 50%. Has sign-ups for free trials or sign-ups for vouchers or whatever increased? This transition point here, have they gone from, yeah, okay, they know who we are, but they still don't buy anything from us? That's another transition point, and another transition point here. These sub-goals can be really interesting places to measure the effectiveness of your campaign, not only for the assignment, but also because it can help you understand your marketing activities. So you can say, great, okay, we're filling in the funnel. Loads and loads of people are coming to our website, and they're all leaking away. They're all disappearing off into the ether. They're just never going any further. That shows me that there's something here that I haven't yet optimized to get them to the next stage, or to the next stage. Where are they leaking away? Where are they disappearing? At what point are they disappearing? And therefore, I need to do something. I need to plug this gap here. I need to open up new routes from here to here, whatever it happens to be. So these measurement points at these transitions can be really, really valuable to you when you're doing your marketing plans, both for the assignment and for real life. And in reality, it's very important. So that could be a really interesting model. So this is optimizing. Basically, the sales funnel is a big bucket, and you've got the customers coming out of the tap at the bottom of the bucket. But if you've got leaks in this bucket, then you're having to pay to fill this bucket up. More and more stuff going into the top. If most of it's coming out through leakage, then you're still not getting many more customers coming out. So understanding where there's leakage, understanding where there's issues is absolutely crucial within this customer journey. That is why a lot of the assignments through the CIM will talk about the customer journey, because understanding the customer journey is actually crucial to being able to optimize it and make it work and get that good return on investment. And the digital marketing gives us the tools to measure where there are leaks, where there are blockages, where there are problems in that journey. So it's absolutely key to what's going on. Charles, we're talking about remarketing and retargeting. We've all seen this happen. We've all gone on websites and we've browsed around on a website for a bit. And then the next morning, our social media is absolutely full of adverts for that company or for similar companies. A couple of years ago, I was looking for a new watch for Christmas. And so I clicked on a couple of these watch places. And I was getting so many adverts for watches after that. Because they'd tracked who I was, they tracked what I was doing. And this is basically this retargeting to say, yeah, this person was interested. I need to keep banging my message home. The big problem with retargeting is, I think I've said this before, it's like going on a date and then you get a text message, hey, really great night last night, fantastic, love to see you again, love to see you again. And you go, actually, yeah, not necessarily, I'm not massively keen. And then you get the second one and you're thinking, no. Third one, starting to be a bit creepy. Fourth one, really need to block this person. Fifth one, I'm going to change my mobile phone number. Chelsea's smiling now, and I don't know what's going on in Chelsea's life, but so this retargeting thing can be very, very tricky. We need to be very careful and wary about what's going on in that area. The remarketing is an existing customer, somebody you have a relationship with, and they've already bought something, and you're buying a second one. You say, did you like that product? Give us a review, get a discount for a review. Tell me more about what's going on. And cross and upselling fits into this market as well. So you bought one product and service from us, buy more products and services from us. The people who also bought this also bought that. Things on Amazon are very, very clear remarketing activities. They're basically just trying to get you to buy more stuff. Really interesting one I had a few years ago. I bought a rotary dryer for the garden. And for some bizarre reason in Amazon towers, they decided that I should get adverts for rotary dryers based on my purchase of a rotary dryer. And I thought, drying my clothes, I'm not building a Chinook helicopter in the garden. I'm just drying my clothes. I've got one. I don't need a second one. What are you going on about? I'm glad the Chinook comment got a laugh because, yeah. Next thing to talk about here is as well, and we've touched on it before, particularly in the difference in business to consumer and business to business. A lot of things are impulse purchases. Wish.com. Nobody uses Wish.com anymore, do they? Anyone used Wish.com recently? Anyone used it at all ever before? No? Yeah. Gabby has. Yeah. Explain to the listeners what Wish.com was or is.
It's just like really crap rubbish from China. It's like Shein or Temu.
Yeah, Temu is the kind of the next generation of Wish.com. Basically, it's a whole bunch of Chinese guys, and it almost invariably is Chinese selling things which they claim are 59 quid and actually now £9. And I'm looking at it thinking I wouldn't pay 9p for that at a car boot sale, but it's all impulse stuff. It's all this low value stuff, and you're thinking, oh, that'll be a bit of a laugh. I'll have one of those half a cats to stick in the back of my car hatchback, or whatever it happens to be. You know, a weird kind of bondage strap for feet by the looks of it, something like that. I'm not sure what's going on there at all. And so there's a market there, and that's where you want instantaneous. You want, yeah, okay, fine, I'll buy that. It's £1. What the hell? What can go wrong? Yeah. Versus switching your current account. And as I said last time, you're more likely to divorce than you are to change your bank account. Possibly that's not quite the same anymore, but certainly it used to be the case back when I was working in a bank. It was often always said that you were more likely to divorce than switch your bank account. And that's why students get amazingly good bank deals, because they know that you give you a free overdraft and you know, free rail card and all that kind of stuff, and hope that in the years to come that you'll still maintain your overdraft and you'll be charged huge amounts of money of interest on your overdraft and your all that kind of stuff. So that's why they do it, because it's too much hassle to switch. It's really interesting that in actual fact all the banks have to pay into this current account switch campaign. So it's kind of, yeah, please switch, but please switch to us. And if you're with us, then yeah, then please don't switch. It's a really interesting marketing campaign that these poor guys have to pay for. But there's two different kind of models there. And this fits in also with the curve that we had at the very beginning of this session. In that, you know, these things very much at that majority bit easy, just price switching. Here, this is something that really, really takes a lot of work, a lot of effort to do. And in the business to business world, this is pretty much where almost all of business is. You might find a tiny bit for people like Viking for stationery and stuff like this, but for virtually everything else in the business world, it'll be a considered purchase. It'll be something where you get multiple quotes for prices. You'll get decisions made by multiple people. So the techie guys will make a decision and then they'll pass it up to their boss, who'll pass it up to the finance team, who'll look at it, go, oh, now the answer's no. Now what's the question? If anybody else's finance team is anything like ours, then the answer's no. Now what's the question is pretty much their response to virtually everything. Lovely. They have two responses for us because we're a multinational company. The answer's no. Now what's the question is the first one. And the second one is all his VAT issues, as if this is some kind of magical thing, which means they never have to do any work. Or you can't do that, and there's VAT issues. Yeah, you're the accountant. You deal with VAT issues. Just do it. Can't possibly order that thing out in the UK because there's VAT issues. Brexit is another one they have. That's their third excuse for anything. You know, we can't do that because of Brexit. Terrific, thanks guys. But when you're looking at your products and your services and you're looking at your activities, and Chelsea, for you, you'd have two different kinds of activities. You'll have very considered stuff, and then you'll have the impulse stuff in terms of, you know, Father's Day and all this kind of stuff, and football matches and, you know, semi-final matches and hopefully that kind of stuff going on. There'll be some impulse things going on, and there'll be some considered business to business kind of stuff going on, strategic stuff. Two different processes, two different modes of working, two different speeds of working, which is really important to understand. And so therefore we actually have to farm existing customers and stuff like this. Cool. That is it for the day. I'm going to call it a day for today because I'm absolutely exhausted and I think we've covered a lot of stuff. Has that been useful and helpful for you guys? Has it been fun? Has it been fun?
Yeah, I think for me, it's really interesting because it made me realise that in my business, the business that I work for, we don't actually do remarketing because our we live on the kind of basis that people, if they want to buy our books because they are premium price, they will not bookmark it, they will not come back to it. It will be a decision that they make there and then, and that we focus the majority of our efforts on, no, not on what have I got it around?
Targeting.
So we do the retargeting. So we focus our efforts on kind of plugging to our existing customers that, oh, you've bought this book, you should also be aware that this book is coming, or this book has just been published.
It's really interesting to I'm just hoping that you're kind of getting the occasional, oh, that's cool, that's interesting going on, and not everything is relevant to everybody, but the key thing is to get the key takeaway points for your organization, your business, and how this can be used for you, and that's absolutely crucial. And as you can tell, I'm not going through the books because frankly you can all read, and I'm not going to go through that. I'm trying to basically tell you stories to give you the color, to give you the other insights, the kind of the sideways view on stuff. And hopefully that works for you guys. Next week, I am in France, so we're not going to have a session next week, so it'll be the week after. What I would love you to do, if you have time, is to look at section 1A of the assignment, the business summary bit of your assignment. And if you can at all over the next 2 weeks, sketch out your 1A assignment bit for me. Doesn't have to be, we're perfect or whatever. Hopefully that will give you some insights on what's going on, and also will then give me some insights, and we can do some feedback on the back of that in 2 weeks' time, if that works for you guys. Brilliant. Fantastic. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm glad you're I'm really glad you're engaged, and I'm glad you're enjoying it. If at any time you think, hey, he's going off track or whatever, pipe up or drop me an email, you know where I am, and say, can we do a little bit more of this or a little bit less of that? Then I'm happy to focus to tweak it. But anything you need, I'm here. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks a lot. Take care, all. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.